It's that time of the night. Time for a quick story time. Hello, hello! Welcome, welcome! Hello, and welcome to another Storytime Quickies of the Grimm's Complete Fairy Tale. Today's tale is tale number 61 The Little Peasant. And before we start, I'd just like to say, if you're watching from YouTube, please make sure you hit that like, subscribe down below. Also, at the end of this video, I will be linking a playlist for all the previous Storytime Quickies that we have had up until now. About 60 plus at this up to this point. So go catch that up. It should be popping up either on this side or on this side. So just hit on those boxes at the end of the video and you can go check out more of these story times. But for right now, grab a blankie, grab your snackies, because it's time for a quickie. A story time quickie. Alright. Tale number 61 The Little Peasant. There was a certain village where no one lived but really rich peasants, and just one poor one, whom they called the Little Peasant. He had not even so much as a cow, and still less money to buy one, and yet he and his wife did so wish to have one. One day he said to her, "Say, I have a good thought. There is our friend the carpenter. He shall make us a wooden calf, and paint it brown, so that it look like any other, and in time it will certainly get big and be a cow." The woman also liked the idea, and their friend the carpenter cut and planned the calf, painted it as it ought to be, and made it with its head hanging down as if it were eating. Next morning, when the cows were being driven out, the little peasant called the cowherd and said, "Look, I have a little calf there, but it is still small, and has to still be carried." The cowherd said, "All right," and took it in his arms, and carried it to the pasture, and set it amongst the grass. The little calf always remained standing, and seemed to be eating all the time, and the cowherd said, "It will soon be able to run alone. Just look how it eats already." At night, when he was going to drive the herd home again, he said to the calf, "If you can stand there and eat your fill, you can also go on your four legs. I can't I don't care to drag you home again in your arms." But the little peasant stood at the door and waited for the little calf. And when the cowherd drove the cows through the village and the calf was missing, he inquired where it was. The cowherd answered, "It is still standing out there eating. It would not stop and come with us." But the little peasant said, "Oh, but I must have my beast back again." Then they went back to the meadow together, but someone had stolen the calf and it was gone. The cowherd said, "It must have run away." The peasant, however, said, "Don't tell me that," and brought the cowherd before the mayor, who for his carelessness condemned him to give the peasant a cow and for the calf, which had run away. And now the little peasant and his wife had the cow for which they had so long wished, and they were heartily glad, but they had no food for it, and could give it nothing to eat, so it soon had to be killed. They salted the flesh, and the peasant went into town and wanted to sell the skin there, so that they might buy a new calf for the proceeds. On the way he passed by a mill, and there sat a raven with broken wings, and out of pity he took him and wrapped him in their skin. As however the weather grew so bad that there was a storm of rain and wind, he could go no further, and turned back to the mill and begged for shelter. The miller's wife was alone in the house, and said to the peasant, "Lay yourself on the straw there," and gave him a slice of bread with cheese on it. The peasant ate it, and lay down with his skin beside him, and the woman thought, "He is tired and has gone to sleep." In the meantime, came the parson. The miller's wife received him well, and said, "My husband is out, so we will have a feast." The peasant listened, and when he heard about feasting, he was vexed that he had been forced to make do with a slice of bread with cheese. Then the woman served up four different things: roast meat, salad, cakes, and wine. Just as they were about to sit down and eat, there was a knocking outside. The woman said, "Oh heavens, it is my husband." She quickly hid the roast meat inside the tiled stove, the wine under the pillow, the salad on the bed, and the cakes under it, and the parson in the cupboard in the entrance. Then she opened the door for her husband and said, "Thank heavens you are back again. There is such a storm, it looks as if the world were coming to an end." The miller said to The miller saw the peasant lying on the straw and asked, "What is that fellow doing there?" "Ah," said the wife, "the poor knave came in the storm and rain and begged for shelter, so I gave him a bit of bread and cheese and showed him where the straw was." The man said, "I have no objection, but be quick and get me something to eat." The woman said, "But I have nothing but bread and cheese." "I am contented with anything," replied the husband. "So far as I am concerned, bread and cheese will do," and looked at the peasant and said, "Come and eat some more with me." The peasant did not require to be invited twice, but got up and ate. After this, the miller saw the skin in which the raven was wrapped lying on the ground and asked, "What have you there?" The peasant answered, "I have a soothsayer inside it. Can he foretell me Can he foretell anything to me?" said the miller. "Why not?" answered the peasant. "But he only says four things, and that fifth he keeps to himself." The miller was curious and said, "Let him foretell something for once." Then the peasant pinched the raven's head so that he croaked and made a noise like "Krr, krr." The miller said, "What did he say?" The peasant answered, "In the first place, he says that there's some wine hidden under the pillow." "Bless me!" cried the miller, and went there and found the wine. "Now go on," said he. The peasant made the raven croak again and said, "In the second place, he says that there is some roast meat in the tilled stove." "Upon my word!" cried the miller, and went there and found the roast meat. The peasant made the raven prophesy still more, and said, "Thirdly, he says that there is some salad on the bed." "That would be a fine thing," cried the miller, and went there and found the salad. At last the peasant pinched the raven once more till he croaked, and said, "Fourthly, he says that there are some cakes under the bed." "That would be a fine thing," cried the miller, and looked there and found the cakes. And now the two sat down to the table together, but the miller's wife was frightened to death, went to bed, and took all the keys with her. The miller would have much liked to know the fifth, but the little peasant said, "First, we will quickly eat the four things. The four things, for the fifth is something bad." So they ate. After that they bargained how much the miller was to give for the fifth prophecy, until they agreed on 300 talkers. Then the peasant once more pinched the raven's head till he croaked loudly. The miller asked, "What did he say?" The peasant replied, "He says that the devil is hiding there in the cupboard in the entrance." The miller said, "The devil must go out and open the door." Then the woman was forced to give up the keys, and the peasant unlocked the cupboard. The parson ran out as fast as he could, and the miller said, "It was true. I saw the black rascal with my own eyes." The peasant made off next morning by daybreak with the 300 talkers. At home, the small peasant gradually launched out. He built a beautiful house. The peasant said, The small peasant has certainly been to the place where gold and snow falls. The people carry the gold home in shovels. Then the small peasant was brought before the mayor and bidden to say from where his wealth came. He answered, I sold my cow's skin in the town for 300 talkers. When the peasant heard that, they too wished to enjoy this great profit, ran home, killed all their cows. That was loud, my bad. And stripped off their skin in order to sell them to the town to the greatest advantage. The mayor, however, said, But my servant must go first. When she came to the merchant in the town, he did not give her more than 2 talkers for a skin. And when the others came, he did not give them so much and said, What can I do with all these skins? Then the peasants were vexed that the small peasant could have thus deceived them, wanted to take vengeance on him, and accused him of this treachery before the mayor. The innocent little peasant was unanimously sentenced to death, and was to be rolled into the water in a barrel pierced full of holes. He was led forth, and a priest was brought who was to say a mass for his soul. The others were all obliged to retire to a distance, and when the peasant looked at the priest, he recognized the man who had been with the miller's wife. He said to him, I set you free from the cupboard. Set me free from the barrel. At this same moment up came with a flock of sheep, and the very shepherd who the peasant knew had long been wishing to be mayor. So he cried with all his might, No, I will not do it. If the whole world insists on it, I will not do it. The shepherd, hearing that, came up to him and asked, What are you about? What is it that you will not do? The peasant said, They want to make me mayor. If I will put myself in the barrel, but I will not do it. The shepherd said, If nothing more than that is needed in order to be mayor, I will get into the barrel at once. The peasant said, If you will get in, you will be mayor. The shepherd was willing, and got in, and the peasant shut the top down on him. And he took the shepherd's flock for himself, and drove it away. The parson went to the crowd and declared that the mass had been said. Then they came and rolled the barrel towards the water. When the barrel began to roll, the shepherd cried, I am quite willing to be mayor. They believed that it was the peasant who was saying this, and answered, That is what we intend, but first you shall go down below and look about you a little. Look about you a little. And they rolled the barrel down into the water. After that the peasants went home, and as they were entering the village, the small peasant also came quietly in, driving a flock of sheep and looking quite contented. Then the peasants were astonished and said, Peasant, from where do you come? Have you come out of the water? Yes, truly, replied the peasant. I sank deep, deep down, until at last I got to the bottom. I pushed the bottom out of the barrel and crept out, and was very pretty meadows, where pretty meadows on which a number of lambs were feeding, and from there I brought this flock away with me. Said the peasant. Uh, said the peasants, Are there any more there? Oh, yes, said he, more than I could do anything with. Then the peasants made up their minds that they, too, would fetch some sheep for themselves, a flock apiece. But the mayor said, I come first. So they went to the water together, and just then there were some of the small fleecy clouds in the blue sky, which are called little lambs, and they were reflected in the water, and the peasants cried, We already saw the sheep down below. The mayor pressed forward and said, I will go down first and look about me, and if things look promising, I'll call you. So he jumped in. Splash went the water. He made a sound as if he were calling them, and the whole crowd plunged in after him. Then the entire village was dead, and the small peasant, as sole heir, became a rich And that concludes tale number 61, The Little Peasant. That's a dark little tale, don't you think? My word. All about this little peasant that is looked down upon, and because of that, he keeps on tricking people until he becomes the sole heir of this rich estate or village or whatever. No, excuse me. That was quite the tale. Not much. I kind of preferred the previous one, Two Brothers. That one was actually pretty good. This one, it felt just like things happened to this guy and they just kind of seemed to work out. Even with the previous tale, I did feel like there was a lack of consequences. Also, to the story for the two brothers, I really felt like when he killed his brother, when he thought that he slept with his wife, I thought that that should have been like something that like he learned about later instead of using the root to bring him back. I felt like he should have kind of like had to pay for the consequences of like cutting his brother's head off and stuff like that. So who knows? Maybe there might be like another story that recurs later on with the two brothers that kind of like is a little bit darker, maybe less. Doesn't have the story of the like the root reviving him and stuff like that. As far as this story though, um, I don't really think there's any like moral to the story other than like I guess the little peasant was like looked down upon and kind of subjugated for like being kind of poor and stuff like that, and just because he outwit them uh a couple of times he ends up killing the entire village. It's kind of a little dark in my opinion. But that concludes today's story. For tomorrow's story, we're gonna have story time 62, The Queen Bee. So look forward to that one. I'll be back tomorrow for another one. If you're watching from YouTube, please make sure you hit that like, subscribe down below. There should be some like storytime playlists that are going to be popping up somewhere over here, I think. Over here, there should be a channel. So go click on those links. Thank you very much. If you're watching from YouTube or if you want to catch this live, go to twitch.tv/stigmaxoxo. You can catch me live. I usually do this sometime around 10 PST. Most times, sometimes a little bit later. The best way to find out is go follow me on x.com, Twitter, whatever you prefer to call it. I usually post up on there, or follow on Twitch and hit that notification button. It'll let you know when I'm going live next. I will see you all next time. And again, have a great night. Don't let the bedbugs bite. And don't be a stranger. Mata hasta and the next. Catch you next time. Bye. Have a good night, you guys. Later.